Welcome to the Film Florida podcast. I'm John Lux, and I'm the Executive Director of Film Florida. Before we get to our interview, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review the Film Florida podcast. If you're not already a member of Film Florida, please consider joining at filmflorida.org. If you like what you hear on the podcast, please consider going to our website and donating $20.23 for our 2023 fundraising campaign. We also have a Film Florida merchandise page. Visit filmflorida.creator-spring.com to purchase Film Florida t-shirts, sweatshirts, coffee mugs, and more. Melora Hardin is an actress, producer, and director, best known for playing Jan Levinson on The Office and Trudy Monk on Monk, in addition to her roles in The Bold Type, Transparent, The Blacklist, The Rocketeer, 17 Again, Hannah Montana the Movie, Transparent, and The Hot Chick, among many others. We talk about her recent film, Golden Vanity, her time at 2 film festivals in Florida, her advice for actors, her collage art, her home decor line, Storyboards by Melora Hardin, and more on this episode of the Film Florida podcast. Here's my conversation with Melora Hardin. Welcome to the Film Florida podcast, Melora.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Excellent. So let's kind of start at the beginning. What's your backstory? Where'd you come from?
I come from a family of 2 actors. My mother and father are both actors. They took me to their commercial agent to drop off their new headshots before the time of internet posting of everything, when you had to actually physically drop off a big stack of new photos. And the commercial agent said, "Wow, you're so cute. Don't you want to do what mom and dad does?" And I was like, "I can do what mom and dad does?" And so apparently I tugged on their sleeve and begged and said, "Please, I really want to do it. I want to do it. I want to do it." And they thought, "Oh gosh, we'll let her go on 10 auditions. If she doesn't get anything, we'll ease her out of it. She'll never know the difference."
Mm-hmm.
I got the first thing I went on, which was a Peak toothpaste commercial where I was dancing in front of a mirror with my doll. I was a very serious ballerina from the time I was 5. I thought I would have told you I was going to be a ballerina. So for me, just dancing, in front of the mirror with a doll was sort of like, couldn't have been a more perfect thing for me. Yeah, and then I just worked all through my childhood and my teens and to my young adulthood, and here I am. So yeah.
Was there ever a point, say, in your teens where you actually took a step back and said, okay, do I actually really want to do this the rest of my life, or was it just full steam ahead?
It was always full steam ahead, except when I went to college. I went to Sarah Lawrence College, and I tried really hard to try to do other things, take things that, I didn't do theater there because I really wanted to just see, is this just something that's worked for me and I've been doing it for so long, so I think it's what I want to do, or are there other things out there? So I focused on poetry and writing, and I focused on, and dance, and, I had fantasies for a while of being like a roaming gypsy who was a novelist. And then I had fantasies of starting a dance company and, you know, somewhere in Europe, and the gypsy part of me. And that I think I ultimately was like, you know what? I can do all of those things and be an actor, because the acting thing was also joyful for me and I loved it and it was working for me, and it was great. It was a great way to live. So for me. So yeah.
Now, you played the role of Trudy Monk in the hit series Monk. You were in 10 episodes in the entire series, but you were the main storyline throughout the 8 seasons, 124 episodes. Talk about how you got that role and just kind of the general experience of being on Monk.
Well, it was I was doing The Office at the time, and I think because they were both NBC shows, it was sort of like Randy Zisk was someone that I've known, and they basically needed to replace the woman who played her, I think, in the first season. And so I think it was Randy's idea. I think it was Randy's idea to offer me the part, and I think Tony Shalhoub really liked the idea too. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened, and NBC was open to that because I think because of the two shows being both on NBC. And I think when I first started on Monk, I could be wrong about this, but I think I was just a recurring character on The Office when I started playing the character on Monk, Trudy
Okay.
on Monk. So
Yeah.
I think that that was how that all worked out because they were both recurring characters, and I wasn't yet a regular on The Office. Considered, I wasn't yet called a regular on The Office.
Now, I mean, in preparing for this, I mean, I could have sworn because I was a Monk watcher at the time. I watched every episode. I could have sworn you were in more than 10 episodes. And even over the weekend, it was on and I was flipping through and I stopped and watched 2 episodes and there you were being talked about and photos, and yet you were only in 10 episodes. So is that as an actor, was that cool because you had such an impact on the storyline? Or was at some point that was a little insulting because they're like, look, they keep talking about me, put me on and pay me. Come on. I mean, how did that work?
No, I mean, I think it always felt like I was an integral part of the show, and everyone was always so joyful and happy to see me when I was there, and I loved the whole working environment of Monk and everybody, Andy Breckman and Tony Shalhoub is just a dreamboat to work with, and Randy Zisk, and it was sort of I never felt anything other than just grateful to be around those people and doing that job and enjoying what I was doing because I was, as I said, I was doing The Office as well. So
Right.
I don't think I ever felt anything other than just gratitude that both things worked out.
Yeah. Now you were back as Trudy Monk in 2023 in the movie Mr. Monk's Last Case, a Monk movie. What was it like to reunite with the cast and the crew after a number of years?
Oh my gosh, so much fun. Just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We were all so happy to be back together, and as I said, I mean, Tony's just one of my favorite people to work with. He's just really warm, and you're just there to do the work. There's no game playing, with him.
Mhm.
He's also not a tortured person, so it's hard to work with people when they're super tortured. It can be hard because when they're tortured, they're kind of sending out that kind of energy all the time.
Yeah.
So he's such a pleasure. So it
Yeah.
was it was wonderful. Yeah.
Now, another recent project of yours, Golden Vanity, has had a really successful run on the film festival circuit, including screenings here in Florida at the Fort Lauderdale International Film Festival and the St. Augustine Film Festival. How did this concept come to be a film?
Well, the two young writers, Taylor Minus and Max Abram, wrote this for me, having never met me, based
Wow.
on other work that they'd seen me do in The Office and Transparent and in Monk and numerous other things. And they thought this is who the perfect person would be to play this,
Hmm.
and they sent it to actually they hired a casting director, and the casting director happened to know my husband because she had just hired him in something. So she got the script to my husband, who got it to my agent, and my agent read it and said, I think you should take a look at this. I had taken several one person show writing classes, so I was really interested in a one person show, and he sent me the script and said, I know you're interested in doing a one person show. This is a one woman movie. I think you should look at it. So I read it, and I was very taken with the themes and the character and just the riskiness of it, the boldness of it. And I called him and I said, I want to meet these two filmmakers. They're first time filmmakers. They'd never done anything before. Max had made a short film, but like a little tiny thing, nothing very nothing that really told me that they could do it. But when I sat down with them, I really could feel their vision. I could hear their vision. I could hear their intelligence, their respect for me, and their ability to collaborate. And I thought, you know what? I think I can bring in a couple of really cool elements with, I got an amazing costume designer, amazing makeup and hair people. They got a great production designer. They were really collaborative about showing me everything. They had a great DP in Bryce Fortner. So we had a really, really good, solid team, and I felt like we should do it, and we did. So that's how that happened. And then it was some micro budget film. I mean, they made the whole film for $150,000. I made about $1 on it. And they then, took a long time to kind of do the post production and, color correction and get rights for the music score, all that stuff.
Hmm.
So it was kind of languishing for a while, and I finally, called them at the beginning of 2023, and I just said, "Guys, where are we with all the rights? Is everything, are we is everything like done? Are we locked?" And they were like, "Okay, we finally locked a cut, we've got everything done. We got the right music rights." And I said, "Great. Can I take the bull by the horns and can I just submit to some festivals? I really want eyes on this. I want people to see it. It's such a great little quirky, special film." And so I did. That's what I did. Got accepted to quite a few. We've been winning awards everywhere we go. Really exciting. And now this year is all about trying to sell it. So we're
Hmm.
trying to sell it now. So the more eyes can get on it, because it is a really special movie.
Well, talk about, some of the unique challenges in playing the film's main character and how you approached it as opposed to approaching a different project.
Well, I mean, the fact that it's just me, it's just one
Hmm.
person, makes it so that, I don't think it's not that much different than really what you're doing when you're working with another actor, except that you're getting stuff back all the time. But sometimes what you're getting back from another actor isn't all that exciting, and other times it's great. Um, and so you do end up using your imagination no matter what. And this is a real, exercise in using my imagination, because everything has to just be very alive in my own mind,
Right.
as far as all these stories that I'm telling about her past, and I'm telling, revealing about the character. As you get to know the character, you're learning more about her, and she's feeling into more about herself than probably she ever has, and kind of coming to terms with, and kind of like having a kind of aha moment with quite a few things. So that's really what I was doing. And then, of course, the dance with the DP was quite extreme, because we
Yeah.
would sometimes do 45-minute long takes. He had to be really quiet. He would sometimes come in and, he was improvising, and I was improvising. I mean, we knew that we would where we were basically going to be, but there'd be times that I would feel, like I was going to take a drink, or I was gonna lean back, or, when I had maybe leaned forward, in the kind of blocking rehearsal. Because with this kind of stuff, we didn't really rehearse the whole thing, because it's just so much dialogue. And what we would do is we would kind of rehearse the beats and kind of get a sense of the feeling of the space where we were going to be. And then we would film, and sometimes we would do super long takes, and he'd be right up in my face, and he'd have to be not breathing so that the mic wouldn't pick up his sometimes very awkward positions. So I think that between the two of us, it was unique in that way, and he was just absolutely wonderful, Bryce Fortner, our DP, to work with that way, because he really did the dance with me very joyfully, and was incredibly unintrusive. He kind of disappeared, which is really a hard thing to do
Yeah.
when you're right up with somebody. So yeah, the whole thing was it was a really wonderful experience, and we would sometimes take breaks, and I would be like, I think I need a break. We just stopped, for 15 minutes, and I'd go up to my little room and take a little rest, or meditate or whatever, have something to eat. And we just plowed along, made the whole movie in 5 days.
Well, you talk about needing to take some breaks. I mean, is that because of the emotions that were involved? I mean, just watching the trailer, not even the film itself, but the trailer, there are amazing emotions of you playing the role of Mabel Montgomery Mayflower. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real roller coaster, it's you get to see so many sides of her. It's funny. It's also physically demanding to,
Hmm.
wear that dress all day long. The dress is a character. It's got an attitude, and it's got it's got a personality. It squeezes you in certain places, and it moves, and it's heavy, and you have to really wrangle it. You have to work with it. So even just that requires taking rests sometimes. And then the hair, the wig, all of it it's like you're wearing it all day, and that stuff is in itself takes a toll. So yeah, and then just the trajectory of all the emotions that she, that we ride through. And we filmed it roughly in chronological order, which was kind of fun to do it like that, like a play. So that rise and fall of what she's doing, the humor, the drama, the tragedy is all very it's happening. It's all happening in that order, roughly. So,
As I mentioned, you spent some time in Fort Lauderdale and in St. Augustine here in Florida. Did you enjoy your time there?
oh yeah, it was great. So great. I mean, Greg House, who runs the Van House, who runs the both of those festivals, is such a lovely guy and really took good care of me. And the festivals were really fun and got good audiences. People really came out, and that's really what it was all about for me, was to get the eyes on it and to get people to feel the reaction, because seeing the film with an audience is really different than people watching it on their computer and in
Right.
their home, because it's just very it's one of those films where you want to laugh at her, but maybe you feel kind of like bad too, because she's also kind of tragic, and you can feel that too. And when you're in a theater and other people get the same instinct because it's the right instinct, you kind of get the permission to go like laugh, and then everyone gets to laugh together, and then you can feel the tension of when everyone's feeling the emotion or being touched or being moved or just being like so
Right. Yeah.
really great to see it with an audience. I really enjoyed both of those festivals.
Now, you've also done a number of things as a director and producing. Talk about how your acting chops have led into those roles and how they prepare you.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably just having been in the business as long as I have and working with all the different kinds of directors I have, some amazing ones like Michael Landon and Clint Eastwood, and then sometimes working with people that are not so great, even the mediocre ones or the kind of not good ones. You learn a lot,
Hmm.
from that. And you learn a lot from great producers too. And I did a movie when I was 24 or 25 that had a lot of kids and animals in it. And the director was really inept at dealing with animals and kids. And because I had been a child actor and because I'd worked with a lot of animals, I was sort of able to talk to the kid in the way that everyone wished the director would.
Mm.
Um, and the producer came up to me and said, you have a really amazing quality of that's rare, of the iron fist and the velvet glove, and you should really direct. And that was really what planted the seed for directing, because I
Hmm.
really wasn't thinking about directing. And then we went out to lunch or something, after the movie, and he was just very encouraging of like, you should really consider this because you really have a gift for it. So I pursued that, and then the producing thing, I think that's just by necessity. Like
Yeah.
if you want to get things done, you kind of sometimes have to do them yourself. So
Yeah. Yeah. The kind of obligatory question here, advice, giving an inspiring actor. What advice was important to you back when you were growing up and has helped you through your years?
mostly, I mean, there's so many things, right? And I would say come and get involved. I mean, get involved wherever you can. Be with working with other actors that are good, that are better than you, not worse than you, because you learn so much from people that are better than you. Try to get into every play, every short film, make short films or just be in them. Find your way, even if it's at a very low level, just get in there and get working. And then, like, for instance, my husband and I have used this young actor that my husband did a short film. And on the short film, there was this young guy who was working just he was working as basically like a PA. And they had to climb into this hill to carry all this equipment, and this guy just did it with a smile on his face. He went back and forth like 7 times, and it was quite a hike, and he had to carry lots of equipment, but he just did it, and he was happy to be there and happy to be involved and just eating up everything, sponging everything in. And he has become, he does some assistant work for us. He's gotten 3 acting jobs out of that because he has met some people that have hired him to do some little things here and there. So it's like, I just think that there's many ways in, and
Hmm.
part of it is having the right attitude, because you can be the greatest actor in the world, and if you have a bad attitude, no one's going to want to work with you.
Right.
And especially if you're coming from nowhere, you have to come in with your eye on the ball. And when I say that, I mean there's a really great thing that I've learned, which is like, don't think about what you don't want to happen or what you don't want to do. Think about what you do want, because there's
Mm.
no education in, well, I don't want to do that, and I don't want to do that, and I don't want to. That only tells you what you don't want to do or what not
Right.
to do.
Yeah.
And rather than thinking about what not to do, think about what to do. And sometimes the way you might think about what to do is look at the people that you admire. Look at the way they are doing things, the way they have done things, and find some people that maybe match up a little bit with your scenario in terms of, where you are coming from, and how to do that. And just think, well, and when something resonates, whatever it is, do that, whether it's getting into a great acting class, auditioning, and for things as much as you can, just really being proactive. And also, the other thing I'd say to a young actor is to remember that your agent is your employee. And a lot of actors
Mm.
get victimized by their agent. They sort of feel like their agent has all the power. And I like to remind them, your agent is working for you. And so you need to be in a relationship. You need to enroll them as if you were the CEO of your own company, because you are the CEO of you. And so a lot of young actors get very like, oh, I can't. And I just want to always encourage them to please really get into relationship with your agent and tell them what your dreams are and what you want and what you're looking for, and ask them questions and push them. And yeah, those are
Yeah.
what I'd say. Those
I,
are the things I'd say.
I think those are two amazing pieces of advice. That was wonderful. Now, in addition to the titles we've discussed, we've actually mentioned a couple of these. You've worked on a lot of projects that people would definitely recognize. We talked about The Office a little bit, The Blacklist, 17 again, and many others. Do you have any fun on-set experiences, kind of behind the scenes, that give people an idea of any of those projects?
Well, I mean, when you say that, I sort of think about, I mentioned Clint Eastwood earlier, because for me, that was a real highlight to work with someone like him. I think also because he came from TV and, became an amazing director and, movie star. And so there's things about his trajectory that are sort of similar to mine. And so, a kind of fun little story is that, first of all, Gene Hackman at that time was as old as my dad. So
Okay.
he was much older than me. And we had to do a pretty physical sex scene that turns violent in Absolute Power. So he came up to me when he first met me, and he said, I'm really nervous about our scene. And I said, oh, don't worry, Gene, I'll take care of you. And I think that was the beginning of our affinity, where he felt like I was going to play with him. I was going to be playful. He could be nervous, and I would just be playful. And that sort of made the spark come alive. And he set a place for me every single lunchtime next to him, where he and I and his stand-in bodyguard would always sit together and have lunch. It was just so sweet. And similar to that, like Gene Hackman, I mean Clint Eastwood, at that time there were no cell phones, and I was on the stage. There used to be, in sound stages, there'd be the one phone that would be over, usually in the corner somewhere, and you could get on that phone, and it'd be a landline, and you could call. And I was on that phone, and I was talking to, I don't know, I think I was talking to my husband. I don't know who I was talking to, but I was talking, and I saw Clint like come, like kind of come, and he was kind of at a distance, and he's kind of looking at me. I'm thinking, oh, he wants the phone, he needs the phone. And he's kind of like going back and forth a little bit, and he kind of like drifts a little bit. And I'm like, oh, um, I'm sorry, I'll be off in 2 seconds. He's like, no, 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 take your time. It's fine. And, and I, wrap up the call and I say, I'm sorry, did you need the phone? And he says, no, 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 I just wanted to let you know that I watch dailies and, you're really, really wonderful in the daily. And I just thought,
Mm.
"Oh my god, my heart's gonna sink," what a sweet it was just
Yeah.
he was wonderful to work they were both just wonderful to work with, and what's interesting is that whole scene was written completely naked, where I was, like, completely naked the whole time, and I was really I basically I got them to do it a different way, which is we did it with, like, partially clothed,
Mhm.
but when I was done, I did think to myself, if I was gonna do a totally nude scene, it would have been these 2 guys would have been great to do it with because they were just so respectful and so, uh, just wonderful to work with,
Two,
in every way. So,
two legends for sure.
yeah, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about The Office. We know the series is loved by many, and I even saw that they're releasing a superfan episodes of it. What has it been like to see the unwavering support for that show for so many years? Did you have any idea that the fans would love it like they do when you did sign on?
No, I didn't have I mean, The Office was like my 13th pilot that I'd done. And I'd had pilots that were short-lived or, ran for a year or 2 or whatever. But I was, I was sort of pretty and I wouldn't say well, I certainly wasn't jaded at all, but I definitely was like wary of everybody going, this is gonna be,
Right.
I was always like, oh well, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I had no idea. I didn't even the other cast were believing it long before I believed it. I didn't really believe it until we won our first SAG award, and I had to carry that thing around all night, and I woke up the next morning and my bicep was so sore, and I could barely lift it because it was, the base is marble and
Hmm.
the statue is made of bronze. It's so heavy. And if you carry it around all night like this and your bicep is just like, ah, and I thought, oh, now I have physical proof that we are definitely a hit. And, I mean, I think it's this wonderful era of streaming. So it just lives on and on and on, and it continues to excite and make generations laugh. I mean, we now I have fans who are 10 years old and I have fans who are 70,
Yeah.
So it's kind of incredible.
Yeah, that is really cool. Now, you're also a collage artist, right? Share a little bit
Yeah.
about how you first discovered this medium and how you incorporate that into your documentary work.
Well, what's kind of cool about it is that it completely came from a documentary that I've been making for the last almost 7 years that I'm hoping will be, hoping out in festivals in the circuit in 2025. That's what I'm hoping. So, in any case, I've always been a collage artist, but I thought of my collage work as kind of like doodles that were not particularly worth much of anything, nor did I take them very seriously. But in the making of the documentary, my subject started looking at my collages as if they were sort of giving her hope and
Mm,
vision for her life when she couldn't hold a vision for her life. And she would use her childlike imagination and go inside of the collages and sort of tell me about rooms that she'd found and where she was going, behind trees that I put there. And they're very dimensional, they feel like they have space and like they go on and on. And so it just sort of was like, what? Okay, and I just started, it was almost like my hands were possessed.
mm,
Like I literally just started pouring out these collages. And when I did, my best friend, who I've known since I was 18 years old, when she saw the first one, which was very, very small, very tiny, I mean, literally like less than 4 by 6.
wow.
It's really, really tiny little thing. It's like an inch and a half by like 3 inches,
Wow.
like 3 inches wide by an inch and a half tall. And she said to me, I see that like a huge set piece behind you, like when you're singing or dancing or like a one person show or something. I just like a big curtain and she's a little bit psychic, so I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then And then my subject in my documentary, Hunter, was saying, "Oh, I had this dream that people were lining up to go inside the collage the way I go into the collage when I'm kind of dreaming or musing on, my life, and they were all like wanting to go inside, and then I met somebody who was like, you should meet my brother. He collaborates with artists and makes wallpaper. And then
Mm,
now I'm making wallpaper out of my collages. And then I met a fine art gallery owner in Montreal where I was filming the Bold Type at the time, and he sort of said, "Oh, I love your collages. I just want them really big." And then, I made a bigger one, and he was like, "No, I meant big." And then I made them even bigger. So it was sort of like this call for, it was just sort of an organic thing. It wasn't like I thought to myself, "Oh, I'm going to do this and then do that and then do that." It just, everything kept happening and kept growing and becoming this big thing that wanted to be large and wanted to be expressed. And I had my first gallery show in 2023, which was really exciting, at Galerie Le Royer in Montreal. And I have all of my wallpaper and my fine art up on my website, which is www.melora.com. So people can look it up there. But it's really exciting for me, and I'm kind of now sort of developing a whole lifestyle brand called Storyboards by Melora Hardin, which is what my wallpaper is called as well. And it's very exciting. I've upholstered some chairs with my fabric. I've made a couple of coats with my collage fabric. I've made some skirts with my collage fabric. And I just, the sky's the limit. I'm not sure, but I'm looking to expand it and develop it. And it's very joyful for me, and kind of a way to bring like art into people's homes, art on your walls, art on your table, to feel like you're living amongst it's very vibrant, very colorful. It's very rich. And I think I like to sort of be somebody in the world through my art who is a connecting person, who's also reminding people of the beauty of life. And we're kind of in bleak times, and I think that it's really lovely just to be making something that brings joy and aliveness for people and into their living spaces. So that's what I'm doing it for now.
that's great. I love to hear that. Now, how can people follow more about your career? You mentioned your website, any projects that you have upcoming that people should look for you in. Tell us how to keep track of everything going on.
Sure. Well, I mean, I did a kind of horror movie called Clock, which is streaming on Hulu. Also, The Bold Type is on Hulu. Of course, The Office is streaming on, NBC Peacock. So is Monk's Last Case, and all of Monk's series is also there. Golden Vanity, I'm hoping that's the one woman movie. I'm hoping everybody will get to see that, because we're looking to sell it, and hopefully it'll end up somewhere, I don't know whether it'll be in theaters or it'll be on a streamer, but hoping that it will certainly be on a streamer at some point. And what else? Yeah, and then just look for my wallpaper and my website, melora.com. Also follow me on Instagram at Melora D Hardin. And yeah, I talk a lot about anything that's coming up. I definitely will post about that on Instagram, places that you can hear more about me or see more about what I'm doing, or and projects. Of course, just coming out of the strike, I don't know what's next, but but there'll be something. There'll be something, and I'll definitely be posting about it there on Instagram, and also you'll see it, but on my website. And on my website, you can join my newsletter. And if you join my newsletter, I talk a little bit about, I kind of do a monthly newsletter where I try to tell people little tidbits that are maybe a little more personal than what I might do in an interview.
Excellent.
So
Cool. Well, Melora, we sincerely appreciate you agreeing to be on the podcast today to share your stories and your expertise. Thanks for spending time with us on the Film Florida podcast.
absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Film Florida podcast. For more information about Film Florida, go to filmflorida.org and like or follow our social media pages. If you're not already a member of Film Florida, please consider joining at filmflorida.org. If you like what you hear on the podcast, please consider going to our website and donating $20.23 for our 2023 fundraising campaign. Check out Film Florida merchandise at filmflorida.creator-spring.com And please remember to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast.